All right, everyone, we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Brett Steele. I am the Senior Director of Preventing Targeted Violence at the McCain Institute. And on behalf of the McCain Institute, Adventure Partners, Credence Management Solutions, we are delighted to welcome you back for the second half of the Invent2Prevent finals. So this morning, if you were with us, everyone in the room I know was, we had the high school teams competing. This afternoon is the collegiate teams. And to get us started, it is my pleasure to introduce Samantha Vinograd. Samantha serves as Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism, Threat Prevention, and Law Enforcement Policy at the Department of Homeland Security. Sam, come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm Sam Vinograd, and I got back from maternity leave about a month ago. And when I found out that this event was happening, I could not miss it. Since I've been back the last 5 weeks, I've been looking forward to this event, and I'll tell you why. All of you know very well that we are in a heightened threat environment. The threats of targeted violence and terrorism affect each of us, and they're evolving. We have a range of threats affecting our communities. And that's why through the Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships, we're really focused on two core things, which each of you represents. One is partnerships, and the second is innovation. From a partnerships perspective, we understand that the Department of Homeland Security cannot and should not be everywhere. Instead, we need to find people in communities that know their communities, know what their community needs. Every community is different, and understand how to get help to people in their communities who need it. You are all critical partners in that respect. And second, innovation. The threats today are evolving so fast. The old practices, promising practices that were used several decades ago or several years ago may not be as relevant. Instead, what we're looking for is innovation and promising practices that can be taken back to local communities. Again, each of you represents exactly that. And the Invent2Prevent campaign is such a cornerstone of our efforts because it not only sparks interest in young people in helping to solve these critical challenges, but it also makes each of you an empowered leader in your community to actually implement these promising practices. And we are so grateful to each of you for all of that. So I'm going to stay and see one of the presentations, but I'm going to make one plea. And that is, please keep doing what you're doing. This is one challenge, one contest, one Invent2Prevent campaign. What we need is for this to be just the start of your interest in addressing targeted violence and terrorism. These threats, unfortunately, are not going away. But if each of you stays engaged and acts as a force multiplier and keeps engaging in your communities, we'll all be so much better off. So that's what I would ask of each of you. Thank you for everything you're doing, and I'll turn things back to Brett.
Hand the mic over. All right, thank you, Samantha. So 23 universities from across the country spent the last semester in an operational budget of only $2,000 designing, implementing, and measuring the impact of initiatives, products, or tools to prevent targeted violence or terrorism. This afternoon, we will hear from the top 3 finalists. They are, in alphabetical order, George Washington University from Washington, D.C., and their Talk With Me project. Johns Hopkins University from Baltimore, Maryland, My Vibe Check, and Xavier University, New Orleans, Louisiana, Still We Rose, which stands for Recognizing Our Shared Experience. The teams will each present live for 15 minutes. So they get just a hair longer than the high school students this morning. and answered the judges' questions for 10 minutes in their quest to earn $10,000 for first place, $5,000 for second place, or $3,000 for third place. And all teams competing in this final today for the collegiate competition are invited to join the Sustainment program for an additional $10,000. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished panel of judges. First up, we have Andy Fawcett. He is the Acting Deputy Transparency and Oversight Program Office in the Office of Intelligence and Analysis at DHS. Andy, do you want to stand and let everyone get to see you? Next up is Jill Mueller. She is the Assistant Director of the Office of Legislative Affairs at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Jill, you want to stand? Thank you. Next, we have Jessica Hopi, Associate Director, Governance and Administration, Education Directorate at the American Psychological Association. Thank you, Jessica. John Decker, White House Correspondent and Senior National Editor for Gray Television and a member of the White House Press Corps. John. And last but absolutely not least, Jill Jacobs, a former Invent2Prevent student from Duke University in the LUMI project. We're so excited to include graduates from the Invent2Prevent program on the judging panels because they were on this stage just one semester ago and really have a valuable perspective of what it's like to design and implement these projects real time. All right, without further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our first collegiate team. Xavier University from New Orleans, Louisiana, Still We Rose, recognizing our shared experience. Xavier, come on up.
Welcome to our HBCU Did You Know?
Judges, we want you to play our game with us. Get ready. This is a lightning round. You have 5 seconds to answer.
Let's get started.
So for our first question, we have, which famous jazz musician from New Orleans credits his early love for music to a Jewish family?
Is it A, Allen Toussaint, B, John Baptiste, or is it C, Louis Armstrong, or is it D, Wynton Marsalis?
Anyone? Any judges?
5 seconds. Unfortunately, the answer was Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong.
But thank you.
That's
That was all right. You
good
got the
try,
next
good
one.
And now for our next question. Who is the first African American to win a Nobel Peace Prize for his mediation in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Was it A, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., B, Barack Obama, C, Ralph Johnson Bunch, or D, Thurgood Marshall? Yeah.
Good job.
Congratulations. Judges, thank you so much for playing our game. This is just one of the tactics of the Still We Rose initiative.
Hi, my name is Nehemiah Strawberry.
I am Jemiah Davis.
I am Anthony Jean-Marie IV.
And I am Ernie Parms Green. And we are
Still We Rose from the illustrious Xavier University of Louisiana. Still We Rose, the ROSE stands for Recognizing Our Shared Experiences. We embolden students at historically Black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs, to take a stand against anti-Semitism.
Still We Rose.
Still We Rose confronts misinformation spread about the Jewish community by both prominent public figures and the general public. Now, let's take you on a Still We Rose journey. First up, we have our goals, followed up with our target audience. And then we will show you how we conducted our immense research. And then we will follow up with our 4 empowering tactics. And then lastly, we will show you our measures of effectiveness and sustainability.
Still, we know.
We raised awareness about Black and Jewish shared histories.
Still, we speak.
We addressed misinformation on social media.
Still, we learn.
We provided educational resources.
Still, we grow.
We spread our initiative to other HBCUs and students around the state of Louisiana.
Still, we go.
We formed partnerships between the Black and Jewish communities and organizations.
Now let's take a look at Joshua. He's a sophomore student at Southern University A&M in Baton Rouge. He's been a Kanye West fan since he was in middle school. So when Kanye West went on Twitter, he believed everything he said when he said that Jewish people ran the media and that they exploited Black Americans. You see, Joshua is our primary target audience, HBCU students and students at predominantly Black and brown high schools across the state of Louisiana. Gen Z is the most active on social media, and we are the most easily influenced by the celebrities on the media. Now let's look at Ms. Johnson. She's a high school social studies teacher who wants to teach more interconnected and interactive shared histories. She knows that her students know very little about civil rights history, and they know even less about the Holocaust. Our tactics were designed to address the concerns from our primary audience, Joshua, and our secondary audience, Ms. Johnson.
A TikTok user in November 2022 said, Kanye was right. Jewish people do control the media.
A YouTube user in May 2023 said, they made us hate ourselves and they love wealth. Kanye was right.
As you can see, Jewish hatred and anti-Semitism is not just a thing of the past.
In 2019, 54% of Jewish students reported experiencing anti-Semitic incidents on their college campuses.
63% of Gen Z and millennials reported not knowing that 6 million Jews were reported killed in the Holocaust.
And of that 63%, 11% of Gen Z thought that the Jewish people caused the Holocaust. Now we're going to look at the surveys we conducted on our HBCU campuses.
Only 13% knew about Black and Jewish solidarity during the civil rights movement. Also, 23% also believed that they knew how to respond to anti-Semitic comments. But listen to this, 80% believed that they didn't know anything, if anything, about Jewish history at all. That is a problem. But we have faith and we have hope in our project because we turned that around. 78% believed that they wanted to learn more about the Jewish community and about combating anti-Semitism.
So, how do we bridge this gap between HBCU students wanting to know more about Jewish history and actually attaining this goal? We used our 4 empowering tactics. Up first, tactic 1, still we know. We created a 13 digital game show series, now 14 thanks to you all's participation. Tactic 2, still we speak. We created a media and community outreach campaign. Our third tactic, still we learn. We provided educational resources for our educators. And our last tactic, tactic 4, still we grow and still we go. We will be expanding our initiative to HBCUs and connecting them with our over 20 partners.
Now for tactic 1, did you know? You participated in our Did You Know series at the beginning of our presentation. This was a 13, now 14 episode digital social media game series that we launched in over 10 locations across the city of New Orleans and the state of Louisiana. From university campuses to City Park, from the famous French Quarters to the streetcars, we had 196 people play our game. It was due to our Did You Know initiative that we were able to both educate and bring awareness to the shared histories between both the Black and the Jewish community. And on social media, we did numbers. We were able to receive 20,000 views. We were also able to connect with a Jewish celebrity and influencer, Montana Tucker, who played our Did You Know game. This was Still We Know.
Do you know your HBCU facts?
Let's see how much they know about Black and Jewish shared history.
Are you ready?
Sure. No.
Which HBCU
Did Albert Einstein guest lecture at?
What? Thank you for trying.
It's not B. It's not B. I know my history.
Thank you. Was I supposed to know that?
You got a B grade.
Right. But you got an A for effort.
I'll take a B. It's okay.
Next stop, tactic 2, still we speak. We engaged in community and media outreach campaigns. We were featured in 4 newspapers, 3 local and 1 national, including the New Amsterdam News, which has a primary audience of African Americans, part of our target audience. We were also featured on a radio station named WBOK, The Good Morning Show. And we were also televised on 3 different networks in the greater New Orleans area. With our strong partnerships with the Anti-Defamation League and the Jewish Federation of Greater New Orleans, also the Golden Ring Center, and many more of our other partners, we were able to pull off 10 community events. This was also the first time that Tulane Hillel engaged with an HBCU for the first time to create interconnected dialogue and talk about shared experiences and our own unique experiences. From interfaith dialogues, community events, educational workshops, film screenings, and so much more. This was our community and media outreach campaign. During the civil rights movement, many Jewish professors, they found refuge in HBCUs because they weren't discriminated there.
Entrepreneur, vegetarian activist, and comedian.
It can be like, hey, we're having this protest. We hope that you show up. Please come out and support us.
Now for tactic 3, still we learn. We created an interactive mapping tool for both educators on the high school level and the collegiate level to use and to add to their curriculum. We also created 26 educational videos, which can be located on our YouTube channel and our website. We tested these resources at a local high school, and when I tell you it was a blast, they loved the interactive nature of our resources.
Lastly, we have Still We Grow and Still We Go. Of course, the Center for Black and Jewish Relations is located in our city of New Orleans at Dillard University, so we thought, why not expand the Still We Rose initiative to all 5 HBCUs in Louisiana? And that's exactly what we did. We went to Southern A&M, we went to Grambling State University, and we also went to Southern University at New Orleans. We had over 27 community partnerships, and we are also part of the ongoing dialogue to unite Black and Jewish voices on HBCU campuses around the country.
Now, our project was effective in 3 primary ways. First, our social media campaign. Second, our community involvement. Third, our change in attitudes. So let's get into the metrics. On our social media, we were able to reach over 14,000 accounts. And amongst all those accounts, our content was viewed nearly 20,000 times. Of the followers that we initially had, we were able to reach about 8,567 who were not in our traditional target audience, demonstrating that our content that we were creating was engaging to people who we might not have initially come across, but still wanted to learn more about what we were doing, our initiative, and what they could do in their own communities. Second, our community involvement. We have engaged with so many community partners, from the Jewish Community Center, from Loyola University of New Orleans. These are people who were instantly invested into our initiative. We were able to reach dozens of community members on the ground and thousands through our traditional media presence, like with New York Amsterdam News, which has a print readership of over 90,000 people. But one of our most important measures of effectiveness was the impact and the impression that we left on our community. We experienced a drastic change in attitudes. Before Still We Rose, only about 40% of participants felt equipped to address anti-Semitism in their community. However, after participating in just one of our events, 80% of participants felt more equipped to address anti-Semitism. 100% felt like they learned more about both Black and Jewish shared histories. And 100% of our participants felt more equipped to engage in connections with other communities, like the Jewish community.
Now, how is our project sustainable and gonna present scalability? We had growth in 4 areas. We have growth within national voices, we have growth within educators, we had growth within our community partners, and most importantly, we had growth with our HBCUs. We will continue to partner with our 14 million follower and social media influencer, Montana Tucker, to continue to advocate and use our campaign to address anti-Semitism and to continue to be advocates for it. In addition, we have collaborated and used our geospatial map within schools, predominantly Black and Hispanic high schools, so that we are able to use these resources for history teachers, in which they will implement them into their curriculum, and they will also be inviting us back every single year to their history day, so that we can show them our shared histories with our geospatial map that includes both Black and Jewish histories. With our many community partners, including the Anti-Defamation League, the Golden Ring Center, there's just so many, over 20. We have used these partners so that we can continue our campaign through these. They not only do they support us at every event, but they also repost every single last one of our posts and our community events. Also, next month, we will be traveling to Israel with other HBCUs to continue the movement and to spread our initiative. When we initially started this project, our primary goal was to expand HBCUs so that we can bring this partnership together. And that is exactly what we are doing.
And thanks to our efforts, we were able to get an anonymous donor to sponsor our trip fully funded. And we will be going with 8 other HBCUs, including the prominent Clark Atlanta University, Morehouse College, Howard University, and Spelman.
We must remember what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So you have pins on your table. So we ask that you put your pins on to show solidarity with our efforts.
All right. Thank you, Xavier University. Still we rose. Judges, you have 10 minutes to ask questions, please.
I'll go first. I'll be the starter of this. So you talked a little bit about misinformation and having, I think you said 26 videos that deal with misinformation. And I'm just kind of curious, when you say you're dealing with misinformation, what does that mean exactly? Are you talking about building resilience to fake narratives, or are you talking about specific content that is misinformation, or both?
I can answer. So earlier in the presentation, we mentioned certain comments that Jewish people exploited Black people. They're greedy. Like it's a whole bunch of like negative stereotypes in both the Black and Jewish community. So we wanted to bring both of those up and address those both, and we wanted to debunk those. And so if we debunk them now, we feel as though that we can get a clean slate and we can get a fresh start in learning each other more in the future.
And just to follow up, so there's a lot of misinformation online, and it changes. Conspiracy theories kind of evolve over time pretty quickly. So how do you decide what kinds of narratives or what things that you're seeing online should be rebutted, should get that kind of attention? How do you figure out which things to talk about and which not?
So to answer that question, we had the 26 educational videos that's composed of us being recorded at the Tulane Hillel. So at Tulane Hillel, we had a civil dialogue between their Jewish community and us, where they would dismantle all the negative stereotypes that they face, and then we would dismantle the negative stereotypes that we faced. And can you repeat your question one more time?
I was just asking, with so much online that's fake or misleading, how do you decide which narratives you want to talk about to debunk?
So our biggest narrative that we wanted to debunk was that the Jewish community runs the media and they exploit Black people. And we addressed this by basically sharing in the Still We Know, the Did You Know, that most people don't know that on the March of Washington, the March at Selma, there were rabbis holding hands with MLK. And that's what we're trying to regain, just re-strengthening that relationship.
This was an absolutely incredible presentation. All of the partnerships that you have are absolutely amazing. So as you go forward and as you sustain this project, do you have a way to measure the change and the impact that you're making?
Yes. So throughout the duration of our project, what we did is we engaged in both pre and post surveys. So when our participants initially came, we had them take a pre-survey with questions, general demographic questions, but we also asked questions as, have you ever engaged in intercommunity dialogue before? Are you willing to make a new connection? What are you looking to get out of this event? Did you know this about the Jewish and Black community? Did you know this question about the Jewish and Black community? Where did you learn history about the Jewish community? Where did you learn Black history? Did you ever learn anything about both Black and Jewish shared histories? And then after our events, we're able to take that same pre-survey and those same questions are in the post-survey along with what did you get? Did you make a new connection? And that's how we were able to measure our impact with this project. So when we move forward, it would be the same sorts of questions, of course, on a bigger scale as we extend to other HBCUs to include those specific questions as well.
John.
Really well done. I was so impressed with your presentation, all of you. So congratulations. I wanted to ask, you're all students, so you all will graduate and enter the workforce. Does your project last beyond your stay at your university? Are there people that carry on this project after you graduate? And my other question was, maybe I missed it. Did you reach out to Black churches in Louisiana and specifically in New Orleans? Thank you so much.
Yes, I'll take that question. So actually, unlike many other projects, our project is housed within our Xavier Exponential Honors Program. And so every year as we get new incoming freshmen, they will take on this project and they will continue and build upon the work. Not only that, but also connecting with the other HBCUs who will eventually expand to all 105 that go nationally with our other partners. And then to answer the second part, you asked me about, could you repeat it?
I can answer it.
No, yeah, go ahead.
In terms of interfaith dialogue, we actually set up a chat and chew between a local pastor, which happens to be my father, and a local rabbi. And we just sat down, debunked these stereotypes, and it was just an overall great time. And we actually had a whole bunch of exponential students show up and ask questions because everybody's curious, and we just wanted to ask these questions, address these things, and then move forward. Like it was just an amazing time. It really was.
Thanks for that. It was a great presentation. Thank you for all your work. This is tremendous. I'm wondering, did you encounter any challenges along the way, and what did those look like?
I would say our biggest challenge was the overwhelming response that we got from community partnerships who wanted to help out and reach out. We didn't get to all the high schools that we wanted to because, as you know, we were college students, we were busy, but that's one of the main challenges, like just getting to all the responses. Because we had social studies teachers from Baton Rouge say, oh, can you travel to Baton Rouge? And that was just our biggest challenge, just reaching everyone.
So it was mainly like a volume issue.
The amount of people who wanted to join our initiative.
That's very positive. Did you encounter any negative voices who did not like what you were doing and didn't appreciate it?
I could take this one. The answer to your question truly is no, but because we understood the sensitivity of this topic and how there might be people who maybe feel one type of way but aren't willing to say it because of the nature of our events are to create unity, we try to look towards the people that might not were saying anything and be like, hey, what do you think? And that's also where our pre and post surveys came in, to be able to get those responses that maybe people weren't verbally able to say. And that's how we were able to measure like the biggest change in impact, because these surveys were anonymous. So in the pre-survey, maybe there would have been someone that was like, hey, I've never really interacted with the Jewish community before. I've heard these stereotypes. I listen to Kanye. But after our post survey, they were like, you know what? We have a lot of shared history tying all the way back to the Holocaust to the Civil Rights era. And I'm recognizing that when we reach across the aisle and we make community with one another, there's more that we can do together than what we can do apart.
Okay, then I have to ask, did anybody try to defend Kanye?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll take the question. So because of discretion, I won't say too much, but there was a student actually with a certain school that we partnered with who wrote an article basically saying Kanye was right. And then, we had the Twitter tweets. She gave her opinions in the article. It was very opinionated and not objectified, and it was a part of misinformation. So that was also one of the many different factors that went into galvanizing why we really wanted to hop onto this topic, because we saw not only was it impacting our community, but it was also impacting other communities. And so this is also a reason why we not only looked at HBCUs, but we also want to eventually expand to PWIs, because those are also other communities that we want to engage within conversation with and debunk stereotypes and bias.
Jessica, did you have a question?
All my questions have been answered, but thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions? We've got about 2 minutes left. Go ahead.
I'll ask one more. I'm just curious. You mentioned resources for educators. What kind of resources did you provide them, and did you get any feedback from them on how helpful they were?
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this one slide, and we didn't really, so this is it. So all the educators, they said, y'all need to map this out. So this is an example slide of the geospatial mapping. So that's basically having a map of the country, and then we tagged every single part where there is some sort of Jewish and Black shared history. For example, we have uniting Black and Jewish culture through food. That's one of the New Orleans, the cuisine is amazing. So there are some restaurants that actually unite Black and Jewish food. And we also have, a lot of people don't know this, but Dillard University was actually helped funded by a Jewish family called the Stern family. So that's one of our educational resources that most of the history teachers wanted.
I'll ask another question. How did your project evolve over time? Were there some lessons learned that you integrated into, how you proceeded through the program? What did you learn, and how did you integrate it?
Our project was such a snowball effect. We started doing research and we're like, wait, we also don't know these many facts and many of these shared histories. We're like, why weren't we taught this? I don't know. I had a slide, Unity Day. That was actually a day where we went and we presented in front of educators. And we basically said, we experienced this in school. We experienced these stereotypes, but there's also a missing factor of our history and, of course, Jewish history, and also the blended history within schools. And so I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I forgot what I was talking. I'm going to be honest.
No, your lessons learned.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm sorry. Right. And so we realized we didn't know any of this information. So we began to just educate ourselves more and more and more. And as we educated ourselves, we began to educate our community. And we also began to build partners. And we built these long lasting connections that are just so deep. And it's just so amazing how it's went from this small idea, but also so big of a problem in our society. And it's just turned into this project in which we've used all of these tactics to just zoom in and be able to grow it, not only within us, but within other HBCUs nationally.
All right, please join me in thanking Xavier University. Fantastic job. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, all 3 teams competing in the collegiate competition this afternoon will be automatically invited. And in fact, I extended the invitations this morning to the Sustainment program. So what does that look like? These teams, there was the question, how does it continue beyond you being at your school? These teams, and Jill is a perfect example, go into a 1-year program led by the Invent2Prevent team that they set quarterly objectives for the next year. Where do you want to be a year from now? And what are the steps you need to take to get there? We've had Sustainment teams go on to earn up to $700,000 in grant funding. Sustainment teams incorporate as for-profits or embed within universities, as Xavier just discussed. So lots of opportunities to keep these projects going and really sustain the momentum that the students are bringing. Next up, we have George Washington University. Let's talk. Come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bill McKenna. I'm from Herndon, Virginia, by way of Denell, New Jersey. I know there's a few New Jersey folks out there, so I want to say hi.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eddie Olowinski. I'm a graduate student at GW in the Homeland Security program. Our third partner, Elizabeth Henn, she's unable to join us today. She is on a diplomatic delegation overseas right now, and she's from New York City, and she is in the undergraduate Homeland Security program.
I want everyone to take a moment right now and consider a situation that no one ever wants to go through. You receive a phone call on the other end of the line is something that is absolutely tragic and no one should ever have to go through. In my personal life, I had a friend of mine whose nephew was unfortunately killed in the Sandy Hook massacre. 6-year-old child, brimming with life, and a very good friend of mine, but unfortunately going to the funeral was just an absolute tragedy. And I'm actually walking my daughter down the aisle in a month and a day and thinking of that, and these children that had to go through that is absolutely painful. And then getting to know Eddie over time as we have worked together in this project, his second week on the job with emergency management in Cook County, he had to deal with the Highland Park massacre, which is coming up on its anniversary. You know, you do your job to try and help people, and then you have to deal with that situation. He was still going to school at the time. Because of our mutual understanding and our shared experiences, we've decided to go with a project called Talk With Me, Debate to Deflate Hate. And what does that mean? We're part of a community that believes in open and civil dialogue, right? So we know that social media right now is an absolute awful place to be in regards to these different rabbit holes and these cells that bring together, and they do these cycles of violence, and they just bring on hate. We use debate to mitigate the efforts of misinformation and hate speech. We understand because debate is a situation where you're talking with somebody, what happens is you break down barriers and you learn to empathize with people and you realize what they're talking about. And if you can put yourself in their shoes, it could be more relatable and you can understand what they're talking about. We provide training to educators and community leaders. Eddie will talk about that specifically. We have metrics in regards to those guardrails so we can make sure that what we're doing in regards to that training is specific to the targeted areas that we need to accomplish. We use online platforms for maximum reach. Obviously, because social media is a weapon, it's also a double-edged sword. We can mitigate that by putting out proper information and, more importantly, reaching out to marginalized people who may or may not have the capacity to understand what, in fact, they're getting themselves into. And finally, we have structured debates that combat radicalization and misinformation. We have specific programs that are designed within the matrix for rubrics that go specific into what the problems are that belie our nation right now. So again, we were driven by personal experiences and loss. Personally, again, several things growing up in New Jersey with 9/11. Going through that when I was working in the financial industry, and Eddie recently with the Highland Park situation. What we're trying to do is rise and affect change. So when we're doing this, what we're trying to do, again, by communicating with individuals and making sure that they talk with their mentors and, more importantly, with their people, they'll understand that what they're trying to do and purposefully talk about each other's problems and situations so that they can come together with a common goal. We also will address societal issues like misinformation, radicalization. We believe in a building of a more inclusive society through debate programs, and we empower educators and community leaders to foster critical thinking. We have found that critical thinking, when you're thinking in a complete idea, by understanding again the other's point of view, it makes you more empathetic, not sympathetic. And when you're empathetic, you can reason with them. So we have an urgent need for proactive solutions due to the rise of misinformation and leading to youth radicalization. We've seen that in the beginning when you saw Muslim groups after 9/11 and when those radicalizations have happened with specific religious groups. And we've seen that transform into the modern era, what you're seeing now with the 2016 elections, and even what you see on Facebook in regards to, well, you need to look at my information, and we all know where that goes. We also engage with at-risk youth with debate programs. We identify areas of the country that need specific help, whether it's rural or in urban areas, and target areas specific to what their needs are and make sure that they're trained. And then also understanding each community's unique needs. I find this is a differentiator for us in regards to whether you're in a city with anti-Semitism, in the city, or with white nationalism in a rural area. This is very transformable. It's very adaptable. And because you can talk, whether you're at a donut shop in Buchanan, West Virginia, or a Starbucks in New York, it has the same relatability. And then finally, fostering critical thinking, communication, and leadership skills through incentives by offering cash prizes and awards in regards to how their debate is structured and how they do things. It'll make it more incumbent upon someone to come out of their shell and, more importantly, have those conversations.
Before we move on to our next portion, you have two handouts in front of you, a rubric and topic examples, which you can reference throughout Elizabeth's portion of the video.
Thank you, Bill, for the introduction. Our target audience is at-risk individuals between the ages of 16 to 24 who spend 4 hours or more on online platforms that extremists also use. These include Facebook, used by extremists the most at 65%, YouTube at 31%, Twitter, 23%, TikTok, Discord, and Instagram. They come from community leaders who voice concerns about youth who have voiced a sense of purposelessness or a belief in conspiracy theories, have a history of discrimination against their peers, consider themselves marginalized, and see no other action but radical action. We began our research with identifying the root causes of radicalization. A United States Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center report found that 1/4 of mass attacks were motivated by hateful ideologies, personal grievances, and belief in conspiracy theories. Examples include the Buffalo shooter, who was motivated by the Great Replacement theory, and the Club Q shooter, who was very evident in his rhetoric against the LGBTQ community. Social media has become increasingly prominent in radicalization and speeding up the process of radicalization. Research from the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism found that not only do extremists use social media as a way to share and spread content, they also use it as a way to recruit and to communicate with other extremists. This has been further supported by organizations such as Tech Against Terrorism, which have documented terrorists' use of social media for recruitment purposes, and particularly their penchant for singling out isolated young individuals in the United States and Europe. Our strategy is based on the following 4 objectives. 1, countering the us versus them narrative. Moderated structured debate avoids generalizations, scapegoating, and bias by forcing participants to think objectively and rationally, see people as individuals, and allow the facts to speak for themselves. Debate moves individuals away from an us versus them narrative and towards a more nuanced understanding of a particular issue. Second, empowering mentors, community leaders, parents, and educators to identify and combat radicalization. Our project can begin in a small community, but with the right resources scaled to the national community. Third, enhancing digital literacy. Digital literacy is an important predictor of an individual's ability to tell the truth from falsehood, and this ability to discern is essential in combating misinformation, disinformation, and radical theory online and in person. And fourth, turning community members into force multipliers and getting community engagement. Often we find that there is a pushback from communities to participate in off-ramp programs because they feel like they are being isolated or singled out. Debate offers not only a myriad of academic benefits and leadership skills, but this program would allow community members to allow the at-risk youth to participate in something that is coming from the inside as opposed to something that is imposed from the outside. And this increases the likelihood that communities listen, participate, and start their own programs, thereby turning them into force multipliers. So how does the program work? Participants choose a topic from the list on our website. These lists of topics are open to community member feedback, but they also indirectly address a lot of the root issues that are at the base of many of the conspiracy theories and campaigns used by terrorists and extremists. So participants must research to find reliable sources regarding their topic, deliver a logical line of reasoning, and state the consequences behind their position. And we incentivize participants to do both sides of the issue. So a participant that does a speech in favor of the motion and against it will rank higher. Participants then evaluate and edit their speeches using the criteria on our website. So speeches that contain conspiracy theories, overt subjective material, a lack of reliable resources, or unwarranted claims will either not be considered, or we will provide feedback. If we think we can move the individual and they can improve the speech, then we will allow them the opportunity to do so. Speeches will be posted where the young people are. So on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. Our website is accessible, user-friendly, and very clear with the expectations. And our social media channels provide sample speeches that students can use to create their own speech, as well as tips on misinformation and digital literacy. Every conspiracy theorist and ideologue aims to exploit perceived grievances, curiosity, isolation, and ignorance. Our program combats these by educating, engaging, and empowering participants with purpose and essential leadership skills. I'm going to pass the presentation now on to my colleague, Eddie Olowinski, who will present metrics, opportunities to sustain and scale, and more about that feedback. Thank you all so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. So during our first phase of beta testing, we reached out to subject matter experts across the country, including the George Washington University Homeland Security Advisory Board, as well as local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, private sector partners, as well as non-governmental organizations across the entire country. We reached out to renowned extremism research programs at the University of Chicago, George Mason University, George Washington University, University of Maryland, and Georgetown. In total, we received 28 responses from these organizations and provided invaluable input into how our program would go moving forward. Over 92% of respondents felt that our program is much needed in areas with at-risk youth and hotspots with high extremism. This goes perfect with our goal of countering the us versus them narrative. Over 92% of our respondents also felt that our content was user-friendly, clear, and engaging. This goes perfect with our goal of ensuring that our program is accessible to all, regardless of your demographic or population. Over 80% of respondents felt that our program can increase critical thinking skills among our target audience. In addition, 80% of respondents felt that the scalability and the sustainability of our program can lead to a nationwide effort. We harnessed the power of social media to target those that are isolated at home. We felt that Instagram was the best way to reach out to those. Within a month, we reached out to over 1,000 followers. This was by using relevant hashtags, creative messages, impactful posts, and humorous anecdotes here and there. Over 100 people interacted with our YouTube channel to explore firsthand how our program finishes and starts. Our website gained traction from 150 different visitors from 22 different states. This exemplifies how our program can become a nationwide effort. We received feedback from LinkedIn, from our emails, from Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. These are just some of the great responses we received from educators that want to implement this within their community districts. Our program will grow organically through word of mouth. We believe that community members will become force multipliers by participating in our program. We do seek to establish connections with directors of youth initiatives, with educators, teachers, guidance counselors, and so forth, because these are the people that experience the early signs of radicalization among our youth. Together, we have the opportunity to seize this project. Let us go forth and connect with these community partner members to identify the early onset signs of radicalization. So, come talk with me. Thank you. Good job.
All right. Judges, you have 10 minutes to ask your questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. My question is, if you have a student who is taking part in Talk With Me and what they are saying and what they are writing is espousing ideologies that would make them appear to be at risk, how are you going to deal with that? What would be your next step?
Well, there's obviously what we would do, there's a vetting process, and more importantly, because we'll be reaching out to community leaders and also people in whether they're in meeting houses, churches, recreation leaders, find a support program that could possibly help them and get them to trust us even more. Because sometimes, obviously, that cycle of hatred just stays there, and it does take some time. We've had personal experience with some youth groups in regards to breaking through on some people. And it does, it takes time, and sometimes it doesn't work, right? But you have to be positive, and more importantly, you have to wait for that divine spark.
Yeah, we have a thorough rubric too from Cambridge, which has been used in several successful debate programs. Elizabeth, our partner, has been using that in New York as well, and she's find very little trouble using that.
So this is fascinating, by the way, but can you connect some of the dots for me in terms of you doing social media outreach on Instagram? How does that connect into a debate program? Where would that occur? Who would facilitate that? Are you facilitating it, or is it a community group or a school? How does it all come together, I guess, from start to finish?
Yeah, the primary use of social media is to grant exposure to our program. So we're reaching out to those that are isolated, those that are interested in wanting to debate. We would be the ones hosting it. We're hoping to use the funding from the award we received today to host our first competition in person within XYZ amount of time.
Yeah.
But we will be hosting it in person to see the success from that, and depending on how that goes, we'll figure out the trajectory of what goes next.
You mentioned that you had 100 interactions. What is that comprised of?
So for the social media, we had 1,000 followers and about 100 to 150 that those actually interacted with our page, meaning liking, commenting, or messaging us. For our YouTube channel, the 100 views are from someone that started the video and watched it in its entirety. We don't count views if someone pauses halfway through or doesn't watch the video in its entirety. And then for our website, it's if someone's on our website for more than 10 minutes, that's counted as a view of our material.
Thank you. Really great job, all of you, including your partner who's not here.
Mm-hmm.
I've covered, unfortunately, countless mass shootings in the course of my career. And one of the things that is a constant refrain in covering these terrible episodes that we see happening all across the country is, where were the parents? Why weren't they involved? Why didn't they notify authorities? What's your answer to that as it relates to the program that you're putting forward?
That's a great question. I can tell you from, again, our personal experience, that is a large problem. You see, there's certain types of people that it tends to be a pattern of behavior. With this type of program, again, we're bringing community leaders and people together where it'll be a safe space for someone to learn to trust, right? So where the parents are, I can tell you, I've been a football coach. I've done some things in my life where I've been a father to people that weren't they were like my kids, and seeing them grow up and become great citizens of this country, it's because of the work that's done from outside. So to take a term, it takes a village, and it's going to take more than, obviously, if it's the parents not doing it, it's going to have to be the people in community that really love and trust them.
Did you have a question? All right. Anyone else have additional questions?
One more. So to that point, how do you connect the two sides of the coin, that you have people who are being fed misinformation, conspiracy theories that theoretically might drive them to radicalization of violence? On the other hand, you have people who are in bad personal or societal situations who are looking for messages that allow them to express their alienation, to find a sense of community, even in a dysfunctional way. You've talked, and we've asked a lot of questions about the kind of critical thinking aspect of it through the debate, but how do you provide emotional support or emotional support education and awareness? What are the kinds of things that you're teaching, and how do you teach that to people when it's usually considered a kind of an innate skill?
Well, I would say, again, as we build out the program, there'll be some components to this. I will say, however, we've seen a lot of enthusiasm. For example, I work at Worldwide Technology. It's the largest Black-owned company in the country. They have been very supportive of our journey on this, providing not only a space to go, but we have resources, including partners within, everyone from Google to AWS to, we also have clients that are hospitals and other places, and we can bring this kind of community groupthink together to, again, as we build this out, there'll be variables that we might not have thought of, but because of the reach that our private and public sector friends have, we can have those discussions to make sure that those holes are filled.
Other questions? Got time for one or two more?
So you mentioned some incentive programs. Would you be able to elaborate on those a little bit more to get people involved?
Yeah, so we're actually looking at doing Amazon gift cards for our first national in-person competition. So based on the rubric, there is a ranking scale from 1 through 10, and based on whoever earns the most points from, checking to see if there's bias within there, is using reputable news sources that aren't right or left wing. But at the end of the point scales, once you add them all up, whoever has the highest number would be, first, second, third place for our incentives.
Anything else? All right, please join me in thanking Talk With Me.
Good job, man.
Good job. All right. So, as they change mics, Rachel is coming around to share some of the collateral from our next team. But as I was mentioning earlier, these projects, this competition started with 23 universities. The 3 you're seeing today are only 3 of that much larger cohort. And our goal, just as the secretary said this morning, is to keep this work going, to help these students not only sustain, but scale their work over time. So our next team, last but certainly not least, is Johns Hopkins University, My Vibe Check. Come on up.
This is an emergency lockdown. There is a violent intruder at large on this campus. Immediately go to the nearest room and lock and barricade the door. Close and cover windows. Turn out all lights and audio equipment. Stay low and stay quiet.
Imagine yourself at 16 years old, huddled underneath desks by your peers, wondering if this lockdown is a drill or an imminent threat to your life. Judges, you have a journal and a pen placed in front of you. Please take a moment to reflect and identify one emotion in response to the given scenario. Audience, you're welcome to do the same. Thank you all for sticking around today. We are Homewood Strategies from Johns Hopkins University. My name is Castalia. I'm joined by Emma, Varshney, and Devik, and we are presenting to you My Vibe Check. We'd like to thank Adventure Partners, McCain Institute, Department of Homeland Security, and Credence Management Solutions for allowing us to present today. My Vibe Check. With the slogan, know their vibes and help them thrive, it allows high school counselors to check the emotional wellness of their students. Students record their feelings on a given day, and they are consolidated for counselors in easily digestible graphs. From there, students are also presented journaling prompts based on their given mood, which they can write in their journals in their branded pens. And we are also providing additional wellness resources online to supplement their school counseling resources. So why My Vibe Check? Judges, if you'd like, if you could share the one word that you wrote in your journal.
I'll start. Fear.
Fear.
Same thing, fear.
Fear. Scared. Exactly. These are all emotions that students nationwide are feeling, especially in light of recent mass school shootings in the past few years. Since 2018, individuals under 21 have been responsible for 2/3 of our nation's deadliest mass school shootings. Those individuals were younger than those standing before you. Why are people committing such acts of targeted violence? In a 2019 report by the Department of Homeland Security's Secret Service, they found that 83% of aggressors cited grievances as their primary or second motive for committing the attack, and another 83% had shared their intent to attack verbally or on social media. We know risk factors include negative home lives, bullying, and recurrent disciplinary action. In that same report, every single attacker had had a negative experience involving bullying or some stressor in their home life in the past few months, even a couple of days before. So this begs us to ask, who can help us solve this? We turn to high school counselors. School counselors are trained mental health professionals who bolster protective factors in schools. School counselors aim to prevent bullying. They try to address recurring disciplinary actions, and they overall make a more connected school environment. However, school counselors nationwide are extremely overwhelmed. Only 14% of schools in our nation meet the recommended student-to-counselor ratio of 250-1, as recommended by the American School Counselor Association. So we created My Vibe Check. We aimed to create a tool that was both easy and useful for counselors and relevant, and designed it to be relevant and helpful for students. Now I turn to Emma for our primary research.
Thank you. So our research team created a 23-question survey that was sent to over 200 high school counselors across the country. The questions addressed counselors' perception of targeted violence in their school, as well as their thoughts on potential preventions and initiatives. Most school counselors reiterated their concern of having to deal with a very large caseload on a day-to-day basis. The average student-to-counselor ratio of our respondents was between 300 and 350-1. That is slightly lower than the national average of approximately 400-1. 400 students. Do you reasonably think that after all of your administrative duties are complete, you could effectively monitor the well-being of 400 kids? Additionally, 73% of counselors reported that they feel unsupported by their administrators in trying to tackle targeted violence. And less than half of them believe their administration effectively improves student understanding of hate-based conflict and hate-based physical violence. Our team also conducted in-depth interviews with counselors where multiple said that they suggested initiatives like online digital platforms, social emotional learning, and initiatives that improve student-counselor relationships, all of which My Vibe Check incorporates and addresses. Counselors need as much information as possible in order to do their jobs effectively, and students need a place where they feel safe providing that information. Ultimately, we decided that our main objective should be helping counselors manage their caseloads by providing them with data and insights that allow them to determine which grades, classrooms, and communities need their attention the most. We did this by connecting with students online. We provided them a platform where they can anonymously and candidly share their true feelings while simultaneously giving counselors those trends, those insights, those graphs that they need to better understand their student environment. Now, Varshney is going to talk us through tactics and content.
To implement our solutions, we devised a few concrete goals. User experience was a priority. Therefore, our first goal was to develop the most effective website design. This is the first page you would see if you logged on to our website. If you are a student and your school is signed up to be a part of My Vibe Check, you can select your school from the list of schools on our website, and counselors can use the Test It Out button in order to see what their students access when they use My Vibe Check. For students, we did not want time or complexity to be factors that influence their responses. Therefore, only the two "How are you feeling?" questions, their grade level, and the name of their counselor are mandatory questions that students are required to answer. The first "How are you feeling?" question asks students to pick from a list of feelings that describes their mood at the present moment. The second feeling question offers students a more comprehensive list of emotions to encourage deeper reflection. Right after students answer the feeling questions, the first thing they see are their counselor name and contact details. This is to encourage students to reach out to their counselors if they feel like they are in need of any immediate assistance. For students requiring additional support, our website also offers optional journaling prompts, as well as information about helpful external resources. Counselors are able to log in to their password-protected accounts to access student data so that the student data they receive remains secure, and are presented with graphs that organize student data so it is easy to interpret. The goal of our tool is to help counselors identify trends in the mental health of their student cohort efficiently and effectively, given the nature of their large caseloads. With regard to PR, social media, and events, our tactics were aimed at reaching our niche audience of high school counselors to create awareness around My Vibe Check and to provide interested counselors with the help and resources that they need to understand the navigation of our tool. While our tool, which is our webpage, does have a student-facing component, our promotion and messaging was focused on addressing the needs of high school counselors. With regard to social media, we manage Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook profiles in order to reach our counselor audience. And these accounts presented content about My Vibe Check, the problem we were addressing through our tool, as well as information about any events and promotions that we were running. We also ran paid Google ads as well as Instagram and LinkedIn campaigns to increase reach. With regards to the events that we organized online Zoom events, which walked counselors through a video tutorial followed by a Q&A session, and also an in-person Check Your Vibes event that gave students on campus an opportunity to win prizes for offering to reach out to their high school counselors about My Vibe Check. We also created branded merchandise, including mugs, stickers, and journals for students. The journals in particular were a critical component of our student-facing aspect of our tool. To facilitate these tactics, we utilized 100% of our budget and with a $417.50 in value added, and also saw 120.3% return on investment. Now Emma will walk us through the post-campaign research.
Our post-campaign research survey was split into two flows, a group of engagers who had been exposed to any marketing tactic on our campaign or who had tested the site with their students, and then a control group of non-engagers who did not see the campaign or the tool. Of the 31% of respondents who identified themselves as engagers, 100% of them said that My Vibe Check was easy to use, its insights were useful, and it would help identify at-risk students in classrooms. 66% of counselors said that they want to adopt My Vibe Check into their classroom as it remains free. And of the two counselors who actually tested the site with students, both of them were very strong proponents of the tool who want the current version of My Vibe Check to be in their classrooms today. Finally, all statements about the tool's value and features received overwhelmingly positive feedback from both non-engagers and engagers. Both groups reported that a tool with My Vibe Check's features, so something that helps identify at-risk students, helps counselors monitor incidences of student stress, and gives students online resources they can easily access, and more, would be either very valuable or extremely valuable in their classroom, as shown by the weighted response averages falling between 4 and 5 on a 5-point scale for every statement they were given. Now, Devik is going to talk us through social media and scaling.
Our website received a total of 1,300 site sessions with over 900 unique visitors, spanning 37 different US states, with the most popular being California, Maryland, and New York. And the most popular traffic sources for our website were direct social media and email marketing, as well as Google and paid ads. As for Instagram, our posts garnered over 11,000 impressions, reaching close to 7,000 accounts, maintaining 53 followers, out of which 13 were high school counselors, our target audience, and 18 posts. For Facebook, we had close to 7,000 post reach, as well as 156 engagements. And for LinkedIn ads, we garnered over 10,000 impressions and had 58 clicks to our website directly from members of our target audience. In terms of Google ads, we had over 26,000 impressions and close to 600 clicks to our website through search terms like mental health test and mental disorder test. And finally, our campaign garnered 2 press hits, one for the Johns Hopkins Center for Leadership Education page, which helped us garner over 300 page views, as well as the Johns Hopkins Hub newsletter, which helped us garner 10,000 page views. In terms of sustaining and scaling our project, at the conclusion of the spring semester, My Vibe Check was implemented at 2 test schools with approximately 40 students and across the country in California and New York.
To continue this, the website is extremely easy to maintain and use, and on the technical end is more so a matter of just preserving the current infrastructure. Even the social media is extremely easy to maintain and continue, and will only require a dedicated team to do so. In terms of potential partners, My Vibe Check needs to be implemented at more high schools across the country. And we are happy to report that since May, we have received 7 more requests from schools in 6 different US states to adopt My Vibe Check at their schools. For some of our future project needs, although we achieved the goals that we set forth at the beginning of the semester of analyzing and presenting overall emotional wellness needs and trends in schools, some counselors did inquire about the possibility of creating individual student accounts that help identify at-risk students and long-term emotional needs. This is certainly a possibility that My Vibe Check would like to look at and build stronger and more secure, robust infrastructure, as well as gain parental consent to collect student data. We also plan to reach out to the American School Counselor Association, as well as state and district school safety executive directors to help us create contact lists that will help us implement My Vibe Check at more schools. Now, judges, I'd like you to think back to the word you wrote down. These are the emotions that students across the country experience every single day in schools, in hallways, at concerts, in malls. But My Vibe Check will change that. Fast forward to the year 2025.
Reporting live from ABC News. As we see a rise in individuals committing shootings at their schools, folks at My Vibe Check are proving it's possible to help schools prevent them. Kicking off in 2023, a group of college students founded My Vibe Check to help high school counselors detect at-risk students and connect students and faculty with crucial resources. 2 years later, we're seeing the results in various public high schools from Texas, Georgia, and Connecticut. The wellness checks have created more positive school environments and immensely helped these counselors connect with their students. Well done, My Vibe Check.
Thank you. All right, please join me in congratulating My Vibe Check. And judges, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll start it off. Congratulations. It's a very worthwhile and timely project that you are working on, and I commend you for that. One of the common elements, it seems to me, in mass shootings that are happening all across the country is mental illness. And my question has to do with just that. What leads you to believe that an individual who may be in that realm, may be mentally ill, will convey through this My Vibe Check program the feelings that they may have? That's my first question. And my second question is, have you considered, in terms of a question to pose on My Vibe Check, not only an individual's own feelings, but something that they notice in others, something in which there's a student that is a classmate of theirs who is feeling angry, or they detect they may be despondent. Is there an element that you're considering in terms of that for your program? Thank you.
We rely on schools for a lot of things. We rely on schools as the primary mechanism by which individuals, it's almost always the last state institution that they come across when they're, as school perpetrators get younger and younger, it's likely the last state institution that they came across. And so we turn to schools because school counselors are responsible for helping students manage their emotions. They're the people that young people tend to turn to. And so in addition to that, both test schools that we tested in response to your second question, they both had instituted wellness checks during COVID, and they said that they were a big help in helping students regulate their emotions and helping identify them in the first place. Right now, there aren't very many things like My Vibe Check, and school counselors are a little too overwhelmed to actually teach students how to manage their emotions. We're hoping this is a good step in helping make that connection.
It wasn't entirely clear to me. Oh, First, it was a great presentation. Thank you. And I think this is a really, really important topic, very concerning for our nation's future based on, how our kids are feeling right now. So yeah, thank you. So is this tool also meant for teachers to get insights into their classrooms and how they're doing? Or is it divided up like that? Or is it only for counselors?
Yes. So short answer, yes. So right now, counselors are tied to certain teachers in certain homerooms, and kids have the option, they have to report their grade and they have the option to report their homeroom. So counselors can organize trends by classroom, which is one of the strongest and I think best options that the tool provides. So they can understand kind of where certain classrooms might be facing certain struggles, individual students within there, and they can then communicate with teachers maybe that their classrooms are showing certain trends as compared to others, as well as grades. And so it just gives them a little bit more insight on the data and trends that are going on within their school. And right now we're going through counselors to market that, but the assumption is that they will be communicating depending on their caseload and with the teachers that are responsible for these homerooms.
Okay, thank you. And I have a follow-up question. Is there a mechanism to, I think this was mentioned at some point, but I didn't quite get the connection. Is there a way to identify at-risk students through
Individual students?
Yes.
Right now, no. Based on FERPA and just problems with IRB, we can't really target individual students. But the power in this tool is really the data. That's what we wanted to focus on. We just wanted to give counselors more of a temperature, more of a feel on that student environment and where potential problems could be coming from and arising. It's something that we're looking into, what security protocols, what type of funding would need to be in place for that. But right now, we really wanted to focus on providing accurate data and effective insights for counselors.
This is very interesting. So on the first point about the student engagement and the input that they provide, just to be clear, this is completely voluntary on the parts of the students within the classrooms. And how do you ensure that they don't feel pressured to report because this is being sort of encouraged by their teachers or by their peers when they actually don't feel comfortable doing that?
I can answer that question. So I think one of our reasonings behind this very simplistic questionnaire, they have two questions that they need to answer, and they have a list. They would not even have to input any emotions of their own, and also the fact that the responses remain anonymous. We anticipate these factors to encourage students to report and also have them have access to other resources as well if they do want to take the next step and access other resources. But I hope that answered your question.
It gives rise to a second question, which is kind of on the other end of the efficacy of it is, if it's voluntary and some students are using it and some students aren't, how do you account for selection bias, that people are self-selecting, and so you get a skewed result if you're the guidance counselor or the counselor?
We would encourage counselors to institute this in their homeroom. So typically, most high schools, have one designated class where they go to either weekly or once a day, likely weekly, and it's like an advisory period. And that makes it's kind of a controlled way where students are already in selected classrooms. So that way, it would just be a quick 2-minute check. Most of our test schools, in fact, said it was almost too easy, too fast. They were like, okay, what do we do now? It would just be a quick check, and it would hopefully be instituted, very strongly encouraged by the counselor to have the homeroom teacher facilitate that, as Emma said earlier. But yeah, it would be done through like an advisory period.
I was really impressed by how much traffic you were able to get to your website, especially through Google Ads. I thought that was such a smart idea. And it raised a question. If there's an individual whose school does not implement My Vibe Check, but they come across the link and they visit your website, would they still be able to use a lot of the resources that you're offering? Would they be able to use it as kind of a journal, or is it a platform that's almost exclusively for counselors?
So as of now, the tool is exclusively for counselors. However, Students who do encounter our website, for example, on multiple pages of our website, we have the interest form linked, and students can easily fill out that interest form, and that'll help us get in contact with their school and tell their school about how students in their schools might want to implement My Vibe Check. And the journaling prompts, as well as the other additional resources, are available to everyone, so anyone can use those.
There are questions?
Go ahead,
Just want to say thank you for also raising attention to the importance of school counselors. That's been lost on the nation for a while. So really glad you were doing this, but I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, please join me in congratulating my vibe check. Okay, so that is the end of the student presentations and the beginning of the judges fund. So as we said multiple times this morning, judges, you have the job that no one in this room envies, and that is choosing first, second, and third place among all of these teams. Again, all of these teams will be invited to join the Sustainment program as well. I want to take a moment to first welcome the judges off stage to go to the deliberation room. You will have 15 minutes to make a final decision. Liv will walk you over there here. And then second, I want to introduce my colleague at the McCain Institute, Rachel Hunkler. Rachel is the Senior Program Manager for Preventing Targeted Violence, and she'll be sharing more with you about honorable mention, as well as updates on our collegiate sustainment teams.
Can y'all hear? Okay. Thanks very much, Brett. Hi again for everyone that was here this morning. I am back as your intermission entertainment. And now I'm excited to present more information about our collegiate teams, as Brett mentioned. So we're going to start with our honorable mentions. Again, just like with our high school teams this morning, we had so many incredible projects this semester, and unfortunately, we could only have 3 here to compete, the ones that you just saw. We had 23 colleges submit projects this semester. So out of those 23, we have 4 honorable mention teams that we want to highlight. The first is from American University with Confident Clicks. This actually teaches internet safety to children and to parents through kind of a choose your own adventure style game, which is pretty cool. And they also have a parent guide about the most popular social media apps. So this is really trying to bring awareness of internet safety issues that we're seeing on some of the most common apps online. Next, we have Texas Christian University with their project Night to Reflect. This is the first time that we've seen a team focusing on the topic of targeted violence against Indigenous women. So it's a really cool topic. They used events, social media, and a website, a petition, as well as a big billboard along the interstate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to raise awareness about this topic. And next we have University of Massachusetts at Amherst with their project VoiceBox. This is actually an educational platform that enhances digital citizenship skills. My favorite part of this project personally was that they had a mascot named Penelope the parakeet, and they said flock together. So they were really focused on community building, clearly for their target audience of middle schoolers. They really nailed that one. And then last but not least, we have Wright State University with their project Vigilant Code. This one blows my mind. I don't even understand how it works. They actually use data scraping on Twitter, looking at language that is suggesting violence, racially motivated violence. And then they use AI and ChatGPT to I can't even explain it honestly, but they use it to analyze it. And then a Twitter bot actually responds to these tweets, giving them a counter narrative and directing them to healthier, non-racist resources. So very cool. So please give a round of applause to all of our honorable mention teams. Next, I have the distinct pleasure of announcing our scholarship winners for the collegiate students. Just like with high school, we have students apply every semester for scholarships that help fund their college education. These are current college students, so it helps them with their current studies. And it could be a student that currently is competing this semester or that participated in previous semesters. We have one of our scholarship recipients in the room today. So if you hear your name, stand up. First, we have Ernie Parms Green from Xavier University. We'll just stop. You don't have to come up. Thank you, though. Thank you. Congratulations. And we have two more recipients who are not in the room today, so shout out to them over the live stream. Rachel Doyle from University of Massachusetts Amherst and Tristan Brooks from Boise State University. So big round of applause for our 3 scholarship winners. Congratulations. So as Brett mentioned a few minutes ago, a big part of our collegiate program actually happens after this competition ends, which is our I2P Sustainment program. There's so many really cool, innovative ideas coming out of this program, and we want to see them actually sustained and scaled into the future. So we've had teams compete in the past and then go on to form nonprofits, their own media consulting companies. And so the Sustainment program is a year-long program with the McCain Institute staff to help mentor them and kind of give them a launching pad into a long-term program that is sustained. And I have the pleasure of working directly with a lot of these teams, which is really fun. So I wanted to highlight all of our Sustainment teams. The first one, the Peace Coalition, they actually just graduated from the Sustainment program. They were a finalist team coming out of Howard University, and their project focused on building better relationships between the African American community and the policing community in the DC area. They did really great work, and their work is going to continue even though they've already graduated from Sustainment. They're still holding local events, holding various dialogues with the local law enforcement. So we're really proud of them for their work in Sustainment. Next up, we have our DUC team, which DUC stands for Developing and Using Critical Comprehension. They were our first place winners last semester, or 2 semesters ago, excuse me, from American University. I don't know if y'all can see it, but they have the cutest mascot of their slogan is quacking down on misinformation. And basically this is a program for elementary school students that helps to teach critical thinking skills using this adorable duck as their mascot. So they started Sustainment about 6 months ago, and they're really focused right now on building out more curriculum. They're translating all of the materials into Spanish to make them more accessible and developing different partnerships with various schools. They're looking for long-term funding, and they will be wrapping up Sustainment this fall. Another team that will also be wrapping up Sustainment this fall is our Be Seen team. SEEN is an acronym as well. It stands for Be Students Encouraging and Empowering Native Nations. They were 3rd place winners 2 semesters ago from University of North Dakota. And so their project is really focused on dispelling misinformation and stereotypes against the Native American population in their community and really developing educational resources to inform everybody about their culture. So they have several educational modules that they're building out right now, one for college students. They're now building out one for K through 12 students. They've developed really close partnerships with local tribal elders who are heavily informing the development of these materials, which is super important. And they also are seeking long-term funding. So both of these teams are doing a lot of grant applications right now. And oops, sorry guys. Okay, and then we have our newest cohort of Sustainment teams. So these teams just competed last semester and they just started Sustainment about a month ago. First is our AIMS team. AIMS stands for Adapt, Inform, Mobilize, and Secure. This project came out of Texas Tech University, and it's essentially a toolkit for social media and communications managers to help manage crisis scenarios in a way that doesn't spread further misinformation that could become dangerous. So they developed a whole toolkit for communications professionals, and in their sustainment year, they're focusing on actually reaching the rural counties across Texas. There's 177 in Texas, and they're typically under-resourced. So really working with communications and law enforcement professionals in those rural communities. We have Lumi Media Consulting. You met a member of Lumi. She was Jill Jacobs, one of our judges for the Collegiate competition, who is deliberating right now. So they won first place last semester, and they actually formed their own media consulting company. And what they do is they partner with other prevention organizations, and they go in with their marketing and media expertise, and they improve whatever materials they have so that they can better reach their target audience with videos and other digital marketing. They actually are partnering with another one of our teams, which I'll feature in a moment, Diverting Hate. And so they were looking for marketing interns, and they hired Lumi, which is super cool to see this kind of collaboration between our I2P alumni. And last but not least, we have the Simple project. And I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the acronym. Simple. There's a lot of acronyms you can tell in these programs. Simple stands for Safe Interactions Between Minority Populations and Law Enforcement. Kind of similar to the Peace Coalition at Howard University. They're really focused on improving relationships between police and minority populations in Huntsville, Alabama. So they are going to be developing, they have a research-informed program for law enforcement. So during sustainment, they're really focusing on building out additional relationships with schools and their local law enforcement. All right. Similar to our sustainment programs, these are all three former I2P projects that have actually won significant funding from the Department of Homeland Security. So we wanted to give a shout out to them. Collectively, these three teams have won almost $1.5 million in funding to continue the really great work that they're doing. The first one is How to Inform, or H2I, from Lewis University. They are focused on media literacy and online critical thinking. They have this whole like TikTok meme competition, which is really cool. Also Diverting Hate, which I just mentioned, that they take again, this is obviously technology is not my strong point, but basically what they do is if someone goes on Twitter and is searching for incel content, so incel being involuntary celibate, they're looking for up some of these search terms. What they do is they actually redirect the user to more positive resources like men's communities, mental health resources. So they use a diversion method that is really innovative. They won $659,000 to continue their work. And last but not least, we have the Fuse campaign coming out of Missouri State University. They use a set of conversation cards to actually build connections among people in order to ultimately decrease white supremacist violence in their community. So they won $645,000 from DHS. So a big round of applause to all of our sustainment teams, our grant winners, all of them doing great work. All right. And lastly, we have three more videos for you all. These are videos that the teams that you just saw each put together. They're about 90 seconds, kind of like a highlight of their project. So we will start with Talk With Me from George Washington University.
The United States Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center report stated that 1/4 of mass attacks from 2016 to 2020 were driven by belief in conspiracy theories and hateful ideologies. Social media plays an increasingly prominent role in radicalization. Researchers found the majority of extremists use social media platforms to consume content, spread propaganda, and communicate with other extremists. Americans aged 16 to 24 spend more than 4 hours a day on social media, but research shows that less than 29% have been taught how to decipher the truth from conspiracy. How do we combat this? We teach young people how to think critically, ask questions, and engage instead of isolate. Talk With Me Debate is an engaging, accessible, national online platform and competition that gives participants the skills they need to think critically, be part of the civic process, and turn community members into force multipliers. We tackle extremism by exploring all sides of the issues that lead people to radicalize. We bring the skills of debate to community members, parents, and educators who encourage participants to take part in our national competition. Participants write, review, edit, record, and send speeches for evaluation. In the editing process, participants learn to think critically about bias, generalizations, conspiracy theories, reliable sources, and opposing viewpoints. These essential skills combat radicalization and misinformation, decrease polarization, foster essential leadership skills, and empower participants and communities. To learn more about us, visit www.talkwithmedebate.com.
All right. Great job, GW. And now we'll see the video for My Vibe Check.
Thank you for being curious about My Vibe Check. My Vibe Check is a tool that gives counselors insights into their students' emotional wellness. With My Vibe Check, counselors can make informed decisions on how to best allocate their resources and ensure the physical and emotional safety of their student body. Students can anonymously report their daily feelings through a secure questionnaire on our website. Their responses are then consolidated and presented to the counselors as easily digestible graphics. Counselors can see in real time the overarching emotional wellness trends of their student body and can therefore tailor their counseling and outreach programs to account for these trends.
Now, why don't we take a look at the website itself? First, let's look at our homepage. To begin, students can click on their respective schools and they will be taken to the emotional well-being questionnaire. As shown, there will be two simple questions that the student will be greeted with. The first one being, how are you feeling today? Students can further specify their mood in the following question asking, how are you feeling today actually? Next, students can select their grade, as well as their counselor, so counselors can efficiently sort through the information. Below the questionnaire, students can find contact information, office location, and availability of their school counselors in case they want.
All right.
Of their school counselors in case they want.
Maybe we'll skip to y'all just saw them, so is that okay? Sorry, John. Okay, and then we are going to watch our last video, Still We Rose of Xavier University.
We have forgotten. It was not that long ago that Black and Jewish students locked arms to confront white supremacy that threatened our country and our communities. We sat together, we marched together, we lobbied together, and we even mourned together. But our generation has forgotten, and hate speech and conspiracy theories are threatening to divide us again. Introducing Still We Rose, a call to our HBCU students to lead the charge once again, to raise awareness of Black and Jewish shared histories, to address misinformation and conspiracy theories in our own communities, to provide educational resources, to strengthen Black and Jewish partnerships. And just like our parents during the civil rights era, this generation of HBCU students will be the change agents who will stand up for injustice and hate within our communities and against hate towards other communities, so that we never forget, because we are stronger together and we recognize our shared experiences.
All right, the judges are back in the room, so I'll welcome back up Brett to deliver our remarks.
It is my great pleasure to welcome back up to the stage Dr. William Braniff, the director of the Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships that sponsors this program.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks to the hosts, our hosts today here at CFR. Thanks to McCain, Credence, Adventure Partners for putting on yet another amazing event. To our judges, thank you. Can we give one more round of applause, please, before we do the 3, 2, 1? In third place, George Washington University, Talk With Me. Abel. Appreciate it. Thank you. In second place, Johns Hopkins University, My Vibe Check. And our winners this year, Xavier University. Come on up. Well done. Amazing. 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 Amazing.
Forward just a little bit. Thank you.
All right. So today we have started with high school and all of the fantastic campaigns that we saw them all bring to the stage and bring alive for all of you. Finished with university and these three incredibly accomplished teams. I get the pleasure of working with them over the next year in Sustainment, and I can't wait to work with all of you. So as Tony said this morning, today's learners are tomorrow's leaders. You all are already leading the charge, and we know this is just the beginning. We're so excited to see where you go over the next year and throughout your careers. I want to thank the Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships for sponsoring the Invent2Prevent program. Thank the Adventure Partners, Credence Management Solutions, and my team at the McCain Institute for all you do to make this program a success and work with these outstanding students. And thank all 23 teams that participated in the university program, as well as all of the high school teams in the high school program. The work across the board this semester was outstanding. We are so excited for all of you, not just one team, all of you, and cannot wait to work with you over the next year and the years beyond. Let's give them one last round of applause. Sure. So faculty, if you want to come up for photos, just going to do a couple photos up here. For everyone else, Rachel, the reception's ready, right? So as they take photos, upstairs on the 8th floor is the reception. Everyone is invited to the reception upstairs. Please, especially if you work in this field, take the time to connect with students, mentor students, and foster those connections to keep these projects going strong for years to come. Thank you, everyone, again.
Bill has final comments.
No?